Today I had a draft that was an absolute train wreck. You know when you start in one color, then you think another color's open, then you think a different color's open, and in the end you just have a pile of cards that barely hang together. I was just about to upload it to YouTube when I thought, you know what, maybe we should talk about this one. Specifically, I'm going to share with you how I think about signals in draft, and I'll use this Trainwreck draft and a draft that went much better, both from Strixhaven, to suggest some mental models for how we can read signals better and end up in the correct colors in our drafts more often. The plot that you're looking at over here was basically my attempt to extract from my brain what I think signals are and why they matter and put it on the page. On the x-axis, it starts with pack 1, pick 1, and it moves along as the draft progresses all the way up to the last pick of pack 3. On the y-axis, I've put basically the quality of your deck if you play cards in the colors either that you're currently in, which is in red and a dashed line, or if you play the cards you have so far of what ultimately would end up being the best colors to be in at your seat at the table. So let me walk you through how this tells the story of a draft. Pack 1, pick 1, I pick the best card in my pack. Let's say it's a red card. So if my deck were red right now, the quality of my deck just went up. My pack 1, pick 1 is red, it would go in my deck. It's more than 0 quality, so I just invested in the quality of the red build. Pack 1, pick 2, take another red card, quality of my potential red deck goes up. Pack 1, pick 3, maybe I take a green card that wouldn't ultimately go in my red deck, quality of my red deck is not affected. And I keep moving through pack 1, merrily picking red cards and being, let's say, reasonably happy with my deck, until I hit this very interesting point. Very late in pack 1, I realize, hold on a moment, there is a blue card in this pack that would meaningfully affect the quality of my red deck. If I were able to fit that blue card into my deck somehow, it would be a noticeable step up. It's not nothing. And I've made this example deliberately pretty hard because at the same time, looks like there's a red card that might be even better for the deck that I'm already building. But I have this little signal, oh look, there's there's a blue card that I'm not sure I should ignore. And then we come to the next pick, and the red card and the blue card are pretty similar in that pick here at the very end of pack 1. And the following pick, there's actually no red card left, but actually there's a blue card that is, not nothing. Now let's say I open pack 2 and pick 1 is kind of a disaster. There's nothing for me in red, there's not even anything in blue, and I feel like I just kind of wasted a booster pack. I move on to the next pick and there's like a little bit in my colors, just enough to keep me going. Then I've kind of got nothing again. And then suddenly, wow, that's a great blue card. There's technically like a red common that I'm okay playing, but that blue card is something else. Next pick, I'm completely cut in my original color red, and bam, there's another blue card. And if we kept going through pack 2, the blue signal just gets stronger and stronger and stronger until eventually in pack 3, blue just completely overtakes red, and your deck would be substantially better if you had invested in blue early than it would be if you invested in red and stuck with it. This right here, I think, is the moment when you want to have invested in blue to really manage to reap reasonable rewards. This is a moment where if this is my first blue pick, maybe I'm going to more than break even and end up with a better deck than if I just stuck with red. But what do you think is the ideal moment to have invested in blue? Pretty much back here, right? Drafting well is about noticing that very first shred of a signal, that tiny piece of information that maybe something is going on in a different archetype than the one you're invested in, and then being very quick to observe when it has a higher velocity, that the cards are improving faster than the cards that you are already taking. And of course, I haven't drawn another important family of curves here, the ones where it looks for a while like it's actually better than whatever you're doing, and then it plateaus out and ends up worse. And draft, for me at least, a lot of the time, is about following a series of those false starts, but trying to minimize your investment in them until you really have found the best color pair, or at least one of the best ones. And by the way, I'll just say, I think one thing that's so beautiful about this game that we love is that so many problems in life are about extrapolating to good conclusions from tiny amounts of information. And it's also theoretically just such a rich family of questions. Now, why have I cursed you with this arcane piece of draft theory? I want to argue today that to draft better, you just want to get better at identifying these 2 points in every draft. You need to constantly be looking for that left arrow, the gray arrow, which I'm going to call the initial signal. That first shred of information that maybe another color pair or a single color or color shard or archetype, what have you, is better than whatever you're doing. You'll probably collect a whole bunch of candidate initial signals in the course of a draft. It's as simple as noticing one strong card after pack 1, pick 3 or so in a color other than your current color. And then once you've identified those candidate initial signals, your job is to keep an eye out for the blue arrow, which I'm going to call the strongest signal, or the signal of the biggest difference between how good the alternative color pair is and your color pair. You might haggle with me and say it's a few picks earlier in this diagram, but what I want to draw your attention to is there is going to be a moment where you have to jump over immediately. And if you wait 2-3 picks after this moment, you are going to miss out on a solid chunk of the value. The reason is in this plot, we're looking at what happened in pack 2. You're about to pass to people who were not passing you much in this color in pack 1. And if you do that, they're going to be solidified in this color and you're not going to reap those amazing rewards that we've plotted out there for pack 3. Okay, so let's get into the specifics in Strixhaven. I want to look at a draft from today where I did not do a good job of this. And then I'm going to show you a draft from early in the format, which basically matches this exact plot where I did pivot immediately as soon as I got that initial signal and I got extremely paid off for it. As we get into that, I want to honestly say a huge thank you to my new followers, my followers new and old. This has been an absolutely unbelievable few days, but really few weeks on my channel. 2 to 3 weeks ago, I was pretty much plateaued at about 100-ish followers, which means that the vast majority of you joined during my data videos just in the last few weeks. And about a third of you joined literally in the last 2 days. I've said this before, but I started uploading videos about 4 months ago every single day. And my goal for the year was to have 500 subscribers. And 2 weeks ago, it really seemed like I might not get there. I don't even care specifically about the number of subscribers. It's more just using this as a metric for, is what I'm doing useful to people? Do people enjoy it? You know, is there a niche for this kind of data-oriented, relentlessly positive, improver mindset draft content? And it's been really overwhelming to see just how much of a niche there really is. The fact that my annual goal was 500 subscribers and I've almost doubled that is absolutely mind-boggling to me. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much. If you subscribed recently or if you've been here for a while, it really means a lot to me. And I promise to pay it back to you in high effort content that will improve your limited game. And if you're not yet subscribed to me, we are so close to 1,000. I can't help but have my eye on that prize. So I want to announce, when I hit 1,000 subs, I'm going to do a live stream where I review drafts for free. Subscribers, non-subscribers, there we go. We ticked up to 965 while recording. That's cool. So if I get 35 more subs, I will sit there on live stream. You can drop a draft log into the chat and I will review it for you live. And I'll just do that for a few hours. And if there's enough interest, I'll do another one and another one, you know? So that's the goal. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, live stream where I do draft reviews. And again, thank you all so much. And also, if you are new here, please leave a comment. Please join the Discord. I'd love to hear about you and what you're interested in. I have a good handle on what those first 100 or so people who I was hanging out with from, you know, early March through mid-April. I have a good handle on what those folks like. If you're new here, I don't know you as well yet. So let me know. Are you new to draft? Are you experienced? Are you looking to get better? Are you just looking to have fun? Are you playing a lot of Strixhaven? How's it going for you? I read and respond to every comment, so I'll be thrilled to see what you have to say. All right, now let me show you my train wreck failure of a draft. Okay, but we're gonna learn from it. We're gonna break down what happened and we're gonna learn. All right, so pack 1, pick 1, we have basically nothing. Withering Curse is pretty much a pyroclasm effect that if you jump through some hoops, then it becomes a board wipe. One awkward thing about it is that a lot of the ways to gain life are creature based. So you're trying to gain life using a creature and then you're going to end up destroying your creature. Pyroclasm, dealing 2 damage, or in this case, -2/-2 to all creatures, usually is not very good. And it's actually usually quite bad and limited because it doesn't get what you want. Anyway, so the point is, I opened 2 bad rares and I just went with whatever. I mean, you know, there are no signals yet. This is pack 1, pick 1. So I just picked what I think is the best card in the pack. So at this point, we have no information about anything really. We've just invested a little bit in one color pair, blue-red. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start logging signals along the bottom. And I think I've come up with a pretty nice way of visualizing the progress of signals. So we get past a pack that has just a lot of Boros cards. There's some in Dromedary, Garrison Excavator, and a Startled Relic Sloth. So we have an early signal, a small signal towards red and white. So like a good responsible drafter, even though I first picked a blue-red card, I second pick a red-white card, immediately just latching onto what I called the initial signal and trying to get on the train early. Next pick is really interesting. So there's a black-green card here, which is fine. It looks like maybe it could be a bomb because it's a board wipe, Vicious Rivalry, but you know, I mean, I think it has its limitations. Like for example, if you're trying to kill your opponent's 7/7 and you're at 10 life, Vicious Rivalry isn't really going to get you out of that spot. But, you know, it's still a board wipe, definitely has its uses. But then I also see a Fields of Strife. I wouldn't say anything here really qualifies as a signal yet. Maybe the black-green rare is a bit of a signal. Okay, so let's get serious about the state of this. So the first Pack 1 Pick 2, the first signal was Boros, white and red. The next signal, just distilling this pack down to one signal, which is a bit oversimplified, but bear with me. It's a green-black signal. So I'm going to make that arrow a little bit taller because it's a little bit more recent, and recent signals matter more. Okay, what about the next pack, or pick? Next pick, okay, there's a lot of green and black again, but Practice Scrollsmith I think is kind of a bomb. This card is just kind of bonkers. 3/2 first strike for 3 that lets you a whole turn later, so this turn or next turn, basically flash back a spell. So I consider that a pretty clear red-white signal again. There is a bit of a green-black signal maybe, but none of these cards is that good. Don't at me, Knockout Maneuver fans, it's good, but it's no Practice Scrollsmith. So we have another Boros signal, and it's our biggest signal yet. Next pick, I don't know about you, I've rarely seen such a bad pack. I guess Ascendant Dust Speaker is the best card in the pack. I thought maybe I want to try Daydream because it's an uncommon that I haven't played with yet. Turns out it's as terrible as it looks. Root Manipulation, you could think of it as a signal, but I think it's such a bad card, it's just not a signal. So I'll go with another Boros signal, I guess. So put it on the board. Next pick, I think really the only signal in the pack is Primary Research. Except for one major exception, which is Archaic's Agony. This thing is not going to go into Boros deck, but it is a signal that Converge is open so far. Oh yeah, and then there's also a Signpost common, right? Inkling Mascot. So now suddenly I think we have a little stack of arrows. So we have a signal that's a little bit red-white, a signal that's a little bit every color Converge, and a signal that's a little bit white-black. Maybe the Converge signal is the strongest. Who knows? Now we have another zany pack. Best card in the pack is Essence Scatter, and then there's a Spectacle Summit, in my opinion. That's what the choice comes down to. I'm going to call Essence Scatter usually a red-blue card, so now we have a blue-red signal on the board. Pretty strong and very recent. I know I'm not the greatest graphic designer on earth, but doesn't this kind of give a visualization to what a messy draft feels like? I thought things were clear. I thought Boros was open. Then we get a chaotic pack. Now there's no Boros. This is what you have in your mind when you start thinking, what the heck is going on? What am I supposed to do? So naturally, I just snapped up a dual land. And now next pack, again, just couldn't be more confusing. Essence Scatter as one of the best blue commons. We have Pest Mascot as a green-black card, as well as On the Alley Shopkeep as a green-black card. And Follow the Lumerets as a green-black card. So at least in volume, you know, pick 8, you're not going to be dealing with the best bombs in the format. So none of these are the biggest bombs you've ever seen. But at least in terms of volume, that's a lot of people not taking pieces for green-black decks. And then Render Speechless, which so far seems to be the best white-black common. So I kind of call that signals into blue, green-black, and black-white. A little something like this, maybe. Next pick, you know, you're not getting that many signals this late, but I guess this is a Boros signal and arguably a Simic signal. Next pick, I guess I'll just call this red, Boros or Is It? And then not that much going on through the end of the pack, really. I guess a late blue signal. So I ask you, like, what are you supposed to do with this information? Looking back at these arrows and trying to find the common threads, I do see that there's something in the Jeskai space. But with reference to our image from earlier, I think we need to be honest with ourselves that Boros kind of dried up. So we started out invested in Boros. You can see Boros arrow, Golgari arrow, Boros arrow, a bunch of messes. And all this while I'm investing in Boros, I'm definitely on that dotted red line with Boros. Climbing, but climbing slowly, getting something every pack, but missing in a lot of the packs. And meanwhile, there's one color that clearly I think has a higher velocity. That color is blue, and in fact, the arrows kind of line up so that the first appearance of a good blue card overlaps with right where I put the initial signal that blue might be open in the theoretical image at the top. Right where that first tick up occurs in the blue curve where the arrow is. And I would say, honestly, that's the initial signal that I missed in this draft. That's the pick where we see Spell Pierce, Essence Scatter, Hydro Channeler, and Spectacle Summit, but most importantly, Essence Scatter and Spectacle Summit. And I somehow have in mind that I'm gonna still be Boros. I see these 4 cards pop up, and let's look at what I do after that. Next pick, I don't take Tackle Artist, to my credit, but I do take an Essence Scatter, because there's nothing in this pack for my colors whatsoever. The next pick, however, I see this Primary Research, and I still seem to think I might be Boros. There isn't a great is it option to is it cards that you don't want to play, but I could have taken Paradox Gardens, I guess. But most importantly, it's not even what I do in this pick, it's the mindset that I'm in. I'm still climbing that red dashed curve that I shouldn't be climbing, and not noticing the initial signal that is it is here, and it's here to stay. Next pick, we get 4 is it cards and a land. Even though Fractalized Bulk Up and Hydro Channeler don't feel like signals on their own, I, should definitely pay attention when there are 4 cards in one color pair and nothing else. Next pick is pretty much nothing, although Divergent Equation does go in a very controlling is it deck as a win condition, very possibly. Then there's Ancestral Anger, which could go in your aggro is it deck. Then there's Landscape Painter. So if at this point I'm thinking I might be is it, I'm feeling really good about this draft, at least this stage of the pack. But because I had already taken these cards, Startled Relic Sloth and the Scroll, Smith, and 2 Primary Researches, I'm feeling like Boros is actually my true home, regardless of what the last part of this pack has to say. If you go back though, none of those were actually signals. Or at least they weren't strong signals. I start with a Saner, so that's not a signal, but it should make me more willing to be an Is It if Is It shows up. Pack 1, pick 2, getting a Startled Relic Sloth is not surprising. This is just someone passing an uncommon when they took a rare, right? There's actually no informational content in that whatsoever. This could have been any uncommon, and if their rare was a good rare, they probably would end up picking it. Pack 1, pick 3, I take Fields of Strife, which again, it's not a signal, because who's Pack 1, pick 2ing Fields of Strife? There's no informational content in that either. It's pretty rare to take a dual land, Pack 1, pick 2, in Premier Draft. If anything, the only signal in this pack is people passing Vicious Rivalry to take another rare or maybe some commons. The big signal, this was the one Boros signal that I actually got the whole draft, I would say, is Practice Scrollsmith, because this is a pull into Boros. This card is so strong. But then this pack with Maelstrom Artisan, Daydream, Archaic's Agony, and Ascendant Dustspeaker, yes, those are visually red and white cards, but none of them is good enough to constitute a signal. Except Archaic's Agony, that the Converge deck is open. It's not even a signal into Boros. And then I did wheel a Primary Research. Primary Research is good in the Boros deck. I actually love this card. But I shouldn't be too serious in thinking that this is a confirmation that Boros is open. It's more just one fine card left over, which could probably just as easily have been a filler level card in any other archetype, because it's not combined with any other cards to paint a picture of Boros being open. Okay, now let me quickly tell you the story of Pack 2. I open some cards, so 0 signals. I get past an Is It Rare, so not an Is It Bomb by any means, but technically, hey, that's another little signal that Is It is open. And I took an Elite Interceptor, which honestly, that common's good enough that maybe it's almost a signal. Then if anything, I get past good green and black, which should add to the green and black signals that I had before. So maybe our first signal coming from the left is that green and black is open. And then we get more, I'll just broadly say green-based signals, Essence Knit, Scholar, Cuboid Colony. I'm still stubbornly taking random Boros commons. And then Stand Up For Yourself with an Archaic's Agony, so a red signal, well, Converge signal and a white signal. And then Boros does end up being open late in that pack. I managed to get a Wilt in the Heat, a Pursue the Past, and so on. What I would say is, That's just me being lulled into stepping up this red curve here. Look, during pack 2, there's an alternative that is becoming better with a whole lot of velocity. You really want to not console yourself by stepping slowly up the curve of what you're already on, while another curve is going really fast underneath you, and at some point is going to pass the sum total of the quality of cards that you've invested in and comprise a much better deck. During the course of pack 2, I'd say that's what happened to me with Izzet, or rather with green, with some kind of green-based converge that was flying by the table while I was dutifully picking up the few Boros scraps that kept me locked into the Boros mindset. But in pack 3, something far worse happened. Let me show you pack 3. I could tell things weren't going well, and I had some investment in white-based aggro and some amount of fixing. So I thought, okay, I opened this Silver Quill. Maybe there's a world where I can get to play it. I thought I'll put a bet on that rather than taking this Repel Calamity, because again, I could tell things weren't going great. Then I get past Exhibition Tidecaller, one of the top Izzet bombs in the format, actually one of the top bombs in the format period, a mill 10, which is an entire win condition on its own pretty much. In Limited, where you start out with 20 cards, or 40 cards, it just mills a quarter of your deck, and by the end of the game, you're close to 20 cards. It might just mill you out completely with 2 spells. This is a nutty rare, and at least I knew enough to take it. But at this point, I'm so invested in Boros that, you know, it's kind of like hoping to get to play that on the splash and desperately hoping I can support it with Opus. Then pack 3, pick 3, I get past a pack with Resonating Loot, which is cool. Traumatic Critique, which is a bomb and a half. It's the entire win condition that you need in an Izzet control deck sometimes. An Unsubtle Mockery, a crucial part for Izzet control. And then also, by the way, icing on the cake, a great card for Golgari and a great card for Simic. And nothing for Boros. I mean, Unsubtle Mockery, but then I do get little bits of Boros scraps, some more random Simic stuff, some random Golgari stuff, and the draft kind of peters out with a whimper. Then there's a Cancel and a Divination, and also a good Boros common. Then there's a good Boros rare, and a good Boros common, and then an Izzet common. And the train randomly lands in the station with some good Simic, but also good Boros into good Boros and good Boros. And then good Simic, just to top it off. So if we had kept drawing our arrows, it would just be chaos absolutely all the way through. Looking back at the draft, pack 1, pick 10, when I saw these 4 Izzet cards and a land, that should have been my strong initial signal that there's another lane opening up. I should at that point have strongly considered how attached I am to Boros and whether I would be willing to just pivot. The next time that you see a big power gap in the direction of your initial signal, you should probably just jump on it aggressively. That's right around this moment here, the strongest signal or the biggest difference. I would say there are 2 candidates for when that happened in my draft. You could even say it came one step earlier when I had this pack 1, pick 7 with essentially no Boros cards and 2 strong Izzet cards. That's a big difference. Or maybe you could say this was the initial signal. But my candidate for when I really got left behind, when there was a big jump in the power level in a lane that I was not in, is pack 3, pick 2, Exhibition Tidecaller, into pack 3, pick 3, Traumatic Critique. This is the moment when you just start seeing big bombs in another color and basically no action in the color that you think you're in. And this is the moment when you just need to jump. In this draft, I did a kind of a half jump, and I ended up with a deck that was as bad as you would think. It had Exhibition Tidecaller and Traumatic Critique randomly on the splash, and otherwise was a totally subpar Boros deck. I went 3-3. 2 of the games that I won were because I managed to find a blue source, play Exhibition Tidecaller, and mill my opponent out. And all 3 games I lost because most of my deck was pretty bad, and I didn't draw my Exhibition Tidecaller along with 2 5-mana spells. If I had just wrapped Exhibition Tidecaller and Traumatic Critique in a comparably good blue-red shell instead of white-red shell, I would have been really happy. And maybe I could have put Practice Scrollsmith on the splash and played the one good Boros card that I ended up with. But this is why I say that draft is the art of predicting what the best color pair is going to be. If there's going to be a color pair that ends up with that gap, that blue shaded area on the right that represents the difference between how good the best deck will end up being and how good your deck will end up being if you stick with the colors that you're already invested in. So keep an eye out for that initial signal and make sure that by the time you see that strongest signal, you're ready to hop. I want to close by quickly showing you a draft where this went really well for me. This was the first draft I posted in Secrets of Strixhaven. It was a clean 7-0 run, and here's how it went. I start out with a Jadzi, which is a pretty good blue rare. I take a Sleight of Hand next up, which is a card I've played with for many, many years and love, so I'm happy taking blue. Then I get a Studious First Year, a fantastic card. I mean, there's various other things going on, but I'm pretty happy in green and blue here. Get a green-blue dual land, life is good. This is the first draft of the format, so don't judge my card evaluation too much, but basically, you know, I'm pretty happy in green and blue. I see a Johnny's Response, which I know is going to be good in the set, so I speculate on some white a little bit. But then I'm back to green, see an uncommon that looks like it'll be pretty good, see another uncommon that looks pretty good, then I see a common that looks fine, and then here's what happens. But by the way, already, do you see an initial signal? Do you see a commonality? Black, white, white, black. Next pack. Black, black, white, black. Next pick. Black, white, black. Right? Next pick. Black, white, white, and black. So I'm already missing initial signals. I'm pretty happy with my deck because I'm thinking, oh, I love Sleight of Hand. I like Jadzi. I have a Mana Sculpt. I have these strong uncommons, whatever. Okay. And then here's what happens. They give me a black, white rare and a black common. They give me a white common, and a white uncommon. They give me a black, white common. And then last pick, taking a land over it, they give me another black, white common. I've already missed the initial signals, but we're already onto the strongest signals phase of the draft by the end of this particular pack 1, because already the only things I'm getting, literally the only cards I'm getting, are white black. And even though I have actually a huge investment in green and blue in this draft, there's a big gap between how good my deck would be if I built it right now using the colors I've invested in, and how good it would be if I built it right now using any other colors. I realize there's a trajectory here. There's a velocity to another color pair. Sure enough, next pack I get past pick 10, one of the best white removal spells. Pretty good black commons and uncommons, the best black-white common. Then I get past one of the best rares in the format in white, maybe the best black common. I'm just getting past all the best stuff you can have. I end up with a pretty much dream Silver Quill aggro deck, and it just crushes. Even though sitting on my sideboard, I have all of these first green and blue cards that I picked. So the next time you're in a messy draft, I would say keep this visualization in mind. Focus on what the initial signals are. And when you see another color pair pick up velocity, it might be worth hopping. There's another side to this conversation, which is you can get burned by jumping around too much. But at a minimum, it is worth practicing the art of identifying the colors that are having the highest velocity and end up going to the best place. You can always look back at your draft logs if you use a client like 17 Lands or Untapped and try to reconstruct if your deck would actually have been better if you had jumped to a different color pair. And finally, you might not want to draw arrows the way that I drew arrows, but nothing stops you when you're drafting online from just writing down, like keeping a little log of the signals that you're seeing. You might literally just like sit down with a pen and paper, and when you draft, just write down like red, red, green, black, red, white, green, blue, red, you know, and then just look over the commonality. And a pattern emerges. What happened in this draft, I absolutely guarantee it, is after seeing those 5 picks all the way on the left, I saw red, white, nothing, red, white, some reason to go red, white. And then I just ossified in that decision. I was just like, you know what? Red, white's open, because I just got 4 out of 5 packs had red, white, or I just kept seeing that, and that pattern got fixed in my mind. I was nowhere near attentive enough to the fact that after that, it all fell apart. And then if you go back and look at whether those red-white signals were really informative, frankly, they just weren't. So I definitely got too attached to my early picks because I had a false idea of the signals that I was seeing because they were just so consistent early on. I didn't change my mind when they evaporated. When you visualize it like this, it's so obvious. You can immediately see red-white was there for a little bit, but then probably someone to my right just got into red-white. And after that, I really needed to get out. All right, so I hope this was cool and fun and informative in a different way from how watching the draft would have been. Let me know. Would you rather I just upload a Trainwreck draft, or would you rather I turn it into a kind of a theory video like this one? I'm genuinely curious. Tomorrow, hopefully the draft will go better and you'll just see a normal draft in this feed. And until then, have tons of fun playing Magic and don't be afraid to splash.